Every time my husband initiates sex, I immediately lock up emotionally and physically. I feel mad at him and make an excuse most of the time. I know it's just built up anger and resentment from our past issues, and what can I do to just let him in? And this is the twofold part. My husband does have depression and has recently in the past questioned whether or not he wants to be with me and accuses his unhappiness to me one day, and then all is forgotten the next, followed by wanting to be intimate. But I'm like, you just told me a few days ago how unhappy you are, and it's making me feel crazy, and I just feel like I need guidance on how to navigate our relationship because I want to be with him and to make it work.
Gotcha. Have you ever said that in that way to Michael, what you just said to me?
Yes, multiple times.
Okay.
We are very open, yeah.
Good. All right, so Michael, you hear that. What do you think's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, she's definitely right about, kind of the disconnect romantically. And she's correct. I have struggled mental health wise for most of my life. And I can understand, like we've talked about it, it's definitely, really has to be frustrating because I do, get into, kind of gullies where, the marriage and the relationship, starts to come into doubt. But I tend to, once we've had a resolution, whether or not we had a big fight or not, but we, tend to, solve things and, move on. And I tend to get, the next day I feel pretty normal again. And then when it comes time, when the kids are finally asleep, and we've got some time, it definitely is one-sided. And that kind of extends, more than just, physically, but sometimes it feels like there's just also that mental disconnect that, my back and forth and kind of my struggles have kind of bled into the relationship.
I don't know if they've bled into it. It's the blood coursing through the veins of this relationship, right? And in combination with hers. So Tess, tell me, I guess if you could distill it down for this kind of format, right? I'd love to talk to you guys for a couple hours. This is fascinating. How can I help you?
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
I am looking for basically, I want to, I guess, know the tools to kind of create for me, kind of maybe figure out what the core issue is for me possibly, and to kind of know what the tools are to be able to open up to him physically again, because I want to, because I know it's not just about the sex. It's like, it's kind of the past arguments kind of building up about things and towards him. And I don't know, I just want to be able to like kind of relax and be open to it again. Because at the end of a long day, I'm very, very tired a lot of the time with the kids because I'm a stay-at-home mom with them. And then it's either that or I'm just kind of annoyed at him whenever he tries to initiate it. Yeah.
So, there's a couple of big things here. Let me just start with the biggest rock first, and then we'll kind of walk down some other avenues.
Okay.
You said that you freeze and lock up.
Mm-hmm.
Those two words are often used for somebody who's some sort of survivor of past trauma, past abuse, somebody who's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you mean when you say that you lock up. When he starts to put the moves on you, your body goes because that's a trauma response. That is a body saying, quick, turn all the lights off, power down, let this threat do what it's going to do, and let this hurricane come through or this tornado come through. And then tomorrow, if we survive this, then we will hear the birds chirping, the sun will come back up.
Yeah. I have an inkling what that might be. The thing is, this has happened a lot more after having kids, so it hasn't always been like this with him. But when you bring up trauma, like it definitely getting like emotional about it. But I grew up with my parents divorced when I was 3, and my sister and me saw my dad part-time on like every other weekend and every Wednesday. And my dad definitely had like kind of bipolar issues and serious anger problems. He just wasn't like really a good guy. Like when it comes to sex, and I really think about like him in terms of like he would bring his girlfriends over and they would like make out on the sofa in front of us or like have sex in the next room, kind of with me and my sister. And then we would, you know, on the flip side of the coin, like he would get really mad whenever we wanted to call our mom and like slam the phone down and like threaten to like, you know, like just like kind of threaten to spank us and stuff. So that kind of anger, I don't know, around that maybe, like for the longest time, I've been trying to figure if there's some kind of connection.
So can I paint a picture for you?
Yeah, sure.
So Tess and Michael, this is me with a big handful of spaghetti thrown up against the wall, okay? See what sticks. But just listening to you guys for a few minutes, tell me if I'm on the right track or if I'm not on the right track, okay?
Okay.
And I want to preface this with the old therapeutic adage, we marry our unfinished business, okay? So Michael, you've wrestled with various challenges with emotional and mental health for most of your life, and it sounds like you're working really hard, and yet you have gullies and seasons when things are pretty low. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. So I don't want to go too nerdy, but it's my belief that many men, millions of men, they understand that at work, in their faith practice, just hanging out with the bros, that vulnerability will get them killed. And not killed like a bullet to your head, but killed, ostracized, pushed out. Nobody wants to hear a guy whining about stuff with a bunch of dudes in the room, okay? And so the only way they know they're connected is either shoulder to shoulder, a group of guys doing a hard thing together, building a thing, solving a problem, doing something, right? Or they get home in their romantic relationships. The only way they are safe enough to be honest and vulnerable is sex. It's the only thing that says, okay, this one is safe. And on the other side, like for bajillions of years, sex for a woman meant you might get pregnant. And until recently, pregnancy might mean death. Pregnancy might mean ostracization. Pregnancy might mean kicked out of your tribe if this baby wasn't had the right way for your particular group, right? So often, sex becomes something that's terrifying and scary, or quote unquote unsafe, unless we have connected emotionally, socially together. And you can see how you both are coming at this thing needing something. Now, here's my guess number 2, throwing spaghetti against. This is me throwing it up against the wall. Michael, you go through tough stuff emotionally. Are you working full-time, Michael?
Yeah, 9 to 5.
Okay, so you go to work, you start feeling yourself getting low, you get frustrated and angry that you're feeling yourself getting low. You say some things out loud. I don't even know if I want to be in this thing. And every one of your alarms goes off. This guy's going to leave me again. I've got to make this thing right again. And then, Michael, you gasping for oxygen, go to the only place it's okay for a man to seek connection, and that is through sex. And that energy coming at you, Tess, feels just like, boom, all the way back to when you're 7. And your body says, shut this thing down. Because it's not sex like, hey, let's have an escape together from this chaotic life of a couple of kids. That is not, hey, let's inject some play and fun into our lives. Let's have some deep connection and we can just unplug from the world. This is, for Michael, this is survival sex. And you've been in the house of a man trying to survive. And you were the casualty of it when you were 7 years old.
Yeah.
Does any of this ring true at all? Tell me if I'm out to lunch here.
No, definitely. I mean, parts of it definitely sound familiar, kind of connect. The only thing I I guess, confused by is that, like, it hasn't always been like this with him or even with, like, past relationships I've had. Like, I don't know.
So let's take that pressure off.
Okay.
Doesn't matter because it's happening now. And what you're doing is you're making yourself feel crazy because you're comparing the present moment with all these other things that have happened in the past. Just because you've enjoyed sex in the past, just because you've had some great romantic partners in the past, just because you and Michael have had great connected intimacy in the past, doesn't mean that it doesn't feel unsafe now. And my guess is, I'll say my guess is, on Michael's behalf, having kids does all kind of things to a parent's internal emotional state. I've seen people who are just chaotic maniacs that they have a kid and it just flips a switch. They start showering all the time. They show up on time. They get promoted at work. It's just the thing they were anchored into. And I can tell you for me, man, I was super reliable at work and I was fun to be around. I was a little unhinged like I always am, but having a kid spun me up.
Yeah, I feel like a live wire, like, most of the time.
That's it.
Like, just anxiety and
Michael,
things I haven't done, and
What did having kids bring to your chest? That little reactor in the middle of your chest. Does it give you peace? Does it make you feel less than?
Just love. I mean, they're the best part of my life. No offense, Tess, but they are far and away, my great motivator.
Okay.
And, it's funny that, you mentioned kind of the survival aspect, because it's definitely true that who I am at home is not, the same type of, guy that I am when I'm out with my friends or when I'm at work, and there's different responsibilities and expectations. But, I do look at, kind of the last year and how this kind of problem the situation has kind of deepened. I spent half of last year unemployed. And there was a lot of negativity going around between me and my wife. And, we do everything that we can to just, keep up with our kids. And then she's right that by the end of the days, we're exhausted. And I look at the intimacy as kind of, that, break from the world versus, I think, some of the things that I said and done while I was really feeling down, that obviously still sits really, really heavily with her. And I want to help to, you can't undo the past, but, I want to help to be able to help her forgive.
Yeah. So Tess and Michael, here's what I'll tell you. I think there are some pretty clear paths back. Okay. And let me change my language. I'm going to retract what I just said. There is no paths back. There are some pretty clear paths towards you guys building a new marriage together that's going to be built on forgiveness, that's going to be built on choosing reality. The reality is, Tess, Michael got fired. He lost his job. And that can happen to any of us. And as the mother of two young kids, that can be terrifying. And also, you can be honest and put on the table, Michael, I did or did not feel safe by the way you went to find another job. And we can have that hard conversation. And you can be honest about what parts of Michael, the conversations, the language, the showing up to help around the house, the help with the kids, the doing the diapers, the bedtime routines, which parts of what activities, what actions can Michael take that help remove the stop signs in your house? Because what we're trying to do is build a house that has room for play and eroticism in it, that has room for comedy, room for laughter, room for just joy, room for right now. You want to go do it right now? Oh yeah. Like that can build space for that. And if Tess is always worried, is today going to be a low day for Michael? Is he going to say something? Is he scared? Is he going to be mean? Am I going to have to go to work all day and then deal with the kids all night? And Michael's just going to be on the couch. Those are all things that y'all need to talk about, because sometimes it's as complicated as we need to go to some intense marriage therapy because we need an outside resource. Sometimes it's as easy as, Michael, you commit, I will keep taking my meds from here on out. I will never miss. And I'm going to start seeing a counselor every week. And I will never walk by the sink and leave a dish in it, ever. I will always do that. I will always walk into the house. In the first 5 minutes I walk into the house, I'm going to look for one thing to clean, to help out. And I'm going to get a little bit more invested in the home, or a lot more invested in the home. And I'm going to stand 6 inches taller because I got a purpose here at the house. My house doesn't feel like a failure factory. And then all of a sudden, Tess is walking around and doesn't have all this weight on the squat rack, which is the mental load of the house and the actual activities of the house and the dinner and all. You see, you get what I'm saying? These things all get tied up together. And then, Tess, at some point, you're going to have to write a letter to your dad and say, no more. Do you get a vote into my life?
Yeah.
And don't send that letter, obviously. But it may be a letter you read out to Michael and say, dear Dad, it ends today. And here's what happened to me as a little girl. Here's the things I remember. Here's the things I saw. Here's the things I heard. And that has made it very difficult for me to have adult relationships. And so I'm done. You no longer get a seat at my table. You no longer get a voice in my head. I wish you the best. It's me and Michael versus the world now. And then from that point forward, after that moment, after that letter, after you read it, then you make a choice that when your dad's his voice pops into your head, you stop and say, nope. Or you stop and say, you don't get a vote anymore. You stop that thing, and over time, you begin to change your default setting. You get what I'm saying, Tess?
Yeah.
And that's a heavy, scary, frustrating move. And Michael?
Yeah, for sure.
Michael.
Yep.
I want you to, from this point forward, this is day one. The next time you tell your wife, I'm not sure I want to be married to you anymore, I want you to be prepared to move out. Because that is a form of manipulation that is just, you can't do that. Okay? If you want to leave her, have the courage to go see a marriage counselor together and y'all two go sit down and you look her in the eye and say, I'm leaving. But if you use that as a move or as a way to kind of control a room or a conversation, or if it's something you say when you're feeling depressed or you're feeling low, you got to work on that, man, because it's destabilizing in your home. The next call for both of you today is that y'all both need to call a marriage counselor and commit to getting in there before this week is over. And we're recording this episode on a Monday. My hope is you are seeing somebody by Friday of this week. Cancel what you have to cancel, take some time off of work, find some childcare, and let's go sit down and start rebuilding this thing. But do I believe you'll have the ability to rebuild it? 1,000%.